Okay, we're gonna cover a lot about ticks today, but really simplify it. They are excessive in their population in early spring and start to die off in late summer, and they can be microscopic and grow up to a rather large, sort of what we know as a dog tick. Ticks do not have 6 legs like most insects. They actually have 8, which is a great way to identify what is crawling on your dog's body. There's pretty much 3 you need to worry about. One is the western black-legged tick, and that's generally the one that actually holds the microorganism that is linked to Lyme disease. And it's all along Vancouver Island and west coast all the way up to Powell River, as well as on the Gulf Islands. The Rocky Mountain wood tick actually doesn't cross the coastal mountains, so it's generally anything interior. You're going to be more concerned about those guys, but they tend to prey on other animals that aren't dogs. And then there's the dog tick, and the dog tick actually does target dogs and is globally wide. Let's talk a little bit more preventatively, since that's what Discover Dogs is all about. Couple things to know about ticks. They are most active on a bright sunny morning. Another preventative measure around the city, or even when you're hiking, camping, or fishing, is go where there's less dense vegetation. Some areas do actually take the time to cut back some of the grasses and move them out as a way to prevent tick population along very populated pathways. On my walks, we like to carry this in our dog kit. So this is our essential oil blend. This you simply rub on your fingers, safe for humans as well as animals. And you would apply that to the neck and the base of the tail, just knowing that's going to sink into the bloodstream. And the smell is going to be enough to deter, hopefully, anyone from jumping on, or if they do, that they will jump off as well. The second one that I always carry in case I do notice something on site is our tick twister. And we'll show you how to use that later. Okay, so you've done everything preventatively, you've had an amazing walk, and now you're back home. And you're wondering, does my dog have any ticks after our adventure? Realizing that ticks do target certain areas in the dog is very important. They love blood-rich spots, so chest, belly, especially eyes, nose, and toes. So we're gonna practice 2 ways of looking through your dog, one with a short-haired dog and one with a long-haired dog, to help you cover your bases. So I work front to back as a way of kind of search and rescuing and making sure I cover all my bases. I have pulled out many ticks, and most of them are actually in armpits or right underneath the ears in kind of a seam of hair. So we'll start with Raider's face. And Raider has an eye growth, which is really interesting to me because when I've pulled out ticks before, they actually look like really tiny eyelashes. And so I just wanted to show you what it could look like underneath the eye, around the eye, and that it's really common to get within the eye lash. He's got some really loose folds here, so I'll be really careful. And I always go against the grain of the fur. If you're going with the fur, you might actually not feel the lump. It's very uncommon to get them inside the ears. It's more common for polyps or grasses to get stuck. So I don't often find ticks in there. We'll go through everything. Commonly the chin is missed. And again, another growth down here for Raider, so we'll just make sure that nothing's moving. There's no mandibles sticking out. Good boy, yes. And unfortunately, in between the toes is a really great space for ticks to start to feed on and to not be seen, and therefore successfully engorge themselves if they wish. So take your time and go through every single one. And then if you want to see, we're just going to go up into the pad and we're going to open each pad one by one. Toot, toot, toot. Zoot, zoot, zoot. Great. Next we'll go behind the ears. There's a seam here where hair can really fold and get a lot of extra space. So dig in there. Start to rake with your fingers. Good boy. And very common, this really loose area, heavy blood flow. We'll just start to rake in there. Just make a line and go over it. Add a little more space, go over it. Just keep raking until you notice anything a little odd or bumpy and worth further investigation. Armpits are a huge one. So anything that looks remotely lumpy, inflamed, sometimes even shiny. You'll get the shiny part of the tick. Ticks, after they're engorged, generally turn gray. So you want to watch for all colors between black and red and gray. This kind of looks like a tick. Would be in a good spot. but it's not. We've picked at it enough to know there are no legs, there's nothing growing. Lastly, we're going to take a good look at the rump. We can see them at the base of the tail, up around the anus, and underneath where the scrotum sacs are. Just any area where they might be able to hide in really thick fur. But I would take upwards of 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the size of your dog, to look over all of the surface area. It is important to remove the tick within 24 hours of latching to avoid any concerns. Okay, so now we've got Garbanzo here, and Garbanzo has a lot of hair. So I'm just going to start by actually removing his collar, because that's one of the most densest areas. So because this is a nose to ground dog, we're gonna check really thoroughly along the nose. Good boy, good boy. I have seen some in the upper lip before, so we'll just take a moment to look under there. Good, good boy. The flea comb is very helpful with a long-haired dog because it's going to get under the surface where maybe you can't feel, and you'll just feel a little bit of a lump, or the comb will stop moving as well. Good boy, good boy. Yes. Next up, we'll go behind the ears and take a quick look at the eyes. So again, we're looking through all those spots, double check around the ears, and there's that really thick hairline. So huskies, retrievers, all those really dense dogs, the Akitas, this is an area where I recommend you going both ways multiple times and just seeing if the comb can flow through, and if it does seem suspicious, if something does seem lumpy within. Good boy. Good boy. Yes. One good thing to realize about ticks is they actually don't burrow under the skin. They just put their heads in, feed upwards of 3 days, and then they will fall off when they're fully engorged. We've got some really long hair here along the toe line, so we'll just make sure where he's going to be trampling through grasses and woods that we don't miss anything here. These guys can get really infected if they get missed because the area is also really warm. Lastly, the rump of a long-haired dog, again, really thick, super thick area ready for the tick to hide in. So I just start to pull up and backwards. You just make sure you're not feeling anything under the comb. You're using fingers and your comb to ensure you do not miss anything. Okay, so you found a tick. It's not the end of the world. You're going to have a tool with you that you need, or you're going to have tweezers in the house, likely. The goal here is to just remove it as cleanly without leaving any of the legs or head in, and as soon as possible. Like I said before, if you get it out within 24 hours, the science says your dog cannot be exposed to the microorganism that is connected with Lyme disease. So we are going to do our best to show you what it's like to remove a tick that doesn't exist off of Bonzo. Got my tick twister here. The V shape of a tick twister, the reason why it was created by a vet is that you can fit any size of tick in, and what we've learned is they can be really microscopic and also really fat and large and engorged. Let's pretend it's right here. So you want to clear the hair area of fur. By no means do you need to trim the fur, but what you want to do is remove any hair from the area so that you don't pull it out with the tick and you get a really good view of the tick. If you have a bad view or a moving dog, it can get really challenging. Next up, you're going to slide right under the tick. So we'll pretend it's right here. We're going to slide in as far as the tick twister will go. Pull too hard and you're going to leave the head in. You just want to lodge it enough that when you do pull, it will be removed. With the twister, it's built to twist to remove so that it ensures the head pops up with it. And then you're going to pop it into a little Ziploc bag or container, or a poo bag is great temporarily. Next up, you're going to treat the area. What I like to do is clean it and then have another really good look and see, is there a potential for a leg or a little mandible or something to be sticking in there? And if so, can I get it out? Don't use the tick twister to remove any little pieces that might have been left in there. I love a good tweezer. The tweezer is just going to be fine enough that you're just removing what looks like a little maybe eyelash or a little tiny black hair. That'll be the tick's leg. After the removal of the tick head and mandibles and you're feeling pretty confident that nothing else is left in there, I like to apply an antiseptic. In our store, we use like a colloidal silver spray or even something like an antiseptic balm would work just fine. I would probably try to apply it for upwards of 3 days, a few times a day, just to ensure there's no form of infection. If you do happen to leave a leg or piece of the tick in there, we've been informed to just monitor it. The body will often expel it, similar to a sliver, and so you want to keep it clean, keep applying medicine, and then remove it as soon as it comes to the surface. If you're at all concerned, please do see your vet. Alrighty, so we finally have this ugly thing off of our dog and we don't know what to do with it. Center for Disease Control says they don't want it anymore. The risk of Lyme disease is so low now, it's down to 1% in our black-legged Western tick population. So it's up to you to dispose of it safely. You want to ensure the tick obviously is no longer living and cannot latch onto another human or dog. The way to do this is by freezing in the freezer, maybe in a poo bag or Ziploc bag or small container, or soaking it in alcohol. This should be done for a minimum of 2 days, just to ensure that this tick will be no longer. That's everything. If you do have any questions or you have found a tick or you're interested in any of our products, we have a great flea and tick section on our website, or you can leave a comment below or come on into the stores. We always love to chat. Thanks. Any ticks in there? Any ticks in there?